So now we are here with Mike, and he has had this system, how many years, Mike?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. And can you tell a little bit about it?
The specs, I think I've got 22 panels, 10 kilowatt of power. And I started off with a 10 kilowatt hour battery, added a second one, so we've got 20 kilowatt hours of batteries. The reason I got the system is I had originally asked Chris, I'm tired of these power cuts. Can you just give me batteries, please? And Chris laughed and just said, the panels are so cheap, we could add panels. And that was a nice revelation. 10 panels, add 20, make 20 panels, give 10 kilowatts of power as needed because the panels are so cheap compared to the inverter and the cost of the batteries. So that's what we ended up doing. Another reason I called you, Chris, was because our power bill was like 5,000 baht, 5,500, and several years ago, and it was only going to go up in the future. So now our bill is 100 or 200 baht.
The bill doesn't really increase that much, even after having the EV.
And so, no, that didn't change the bill, the power consumption very much at all. Because most of the time we can charge the batteries and the EV during the day.
If it's summer.
Yes, and we don't drive extremely much, 50K a day or something, not that much.
Yeah.
That's easy. During the summer, it's easily, the goals are achieved.
So if we take you back to the time before you had the installation, like you mentioned, the UPS was actually the most important thing for you.
Power cuts were so irritating. Once or twice a month, and it's really hot.
Yeah.
And I had, like most people, a lot of expats might have a gen set. And so the power was out for 20 minutes. And sure enough, once you fire it up and plug a few fans in, the power comes back on grid, And then the next time you might wait for 2 hours for the power to come back on, or you just live without it. But that's very irritating, isn't it? 7 o'clock at night and it's extremely hot. To me, that was a plus, having the UPS system.
Yeah.
Very good, and it's a very good system. Like I said, the system is fine, Chris. The solar panels just work by themselves. I don't have to keep checking on it. I like checking on it to see what the production is and what the house is using. I turn on a microwave and you can see how much more power
exactly
is being drawn, and that's kind of interesting. And it was interesting to see, as the power production as the sun goes through noon, 12, 1, 2, and tapers off at 5. Even at 5 p.m., they're still getting some solar energy put back into the system, the batteries in the household. But all that is interesting, but it's easy to use, and I've only had to call you a few times, Chris, to say, oh, there was a big storm and I have to reset the system. How do I do that? And you just tell me, oh, push 2 buttons and then it'll reset. Oh, is that it? It's so easy. Yeah. Texted you with a question. What is this with the app, or what is this about? The network didn't, something, I was confused about. You always got back to me within minutes. And you explained very patiently all the questions that I had, and I had a lot of questions because I was learning about solar. And you directed me to watch some of your videos and so on. That was very helpful, and your company and service was very good. As I said, I called you back to add in another battery, and that was so nice and so smooth. Yeah. And I believe your total installation was like 2 days or 3 days. I have to say one more thing. The electricians didn't do a good job when they built this house, and I believe they shared the neutral wire, and the attic was a total mess. They said they were going to put everything in conduits in the attic, and all the wires went like a bird's nest in the attic, and so your crew was working up in the really hot attic in March or April 2 years ago, very hot, and they were just wonderful. They really did a good job. They didn't complain, and they really did a lot. They had to do extra work to make it work, and within 2 or 3 days, the system was up and running. Amazing. Everything was so good. And it's been running perfect for 2 years and saving money. The only thing I would wish I had done different is I wish I would have got the system 5 years ago, because every year I'm saving 40 to 50,000 baht, 5,000 baht a month, 4,000 baht a month, and so yes, I would tell people, don't wait until the system becomes cheaper. As soon as you get a system, you're saving money
Exactly,
every month.
yeah.
It's very nice.
Because every month you wait, you lose that money that you would have saved. So it's like that. Okay, so you know, there are cheaper systems and cheaper installations available. What do you think about that?
I looked at other companies and I just wasn't sure of their capabilities. And really, Chris, when I looked at your videos, I just felt I had confidence in your abilities and your company's abilities, and it turned out to be true. And you really do have knowledgeable employees, and you have knowledge of how the solar system works. And I just feel good about the competence of your company and your employees. No problem. I didn't have that same confidence when I contacted other companies, and even they did not inspire confidence. And their prices, some of their prices were lower, some were higher, and offered less quality or less performance. So all in all, I'm just glad that I chose your company because it turned out well in all respects.
Two types of panels. I have the bifacial at the back, which are southern facing, and then I have the original 56 panels, I think it is, which are southwest facing, I think. So two separate systems and three inverters. What I should say is that I put ground frames for a few different reasons. First, we have quite a lot of space, so it was no issue to put them in the garden. But mainly the house roof is a bit too steep and not facing the right directions. So locating ground frames was my first choice. Really happy with it because they're super easy to clean, and I think it looks awesome. What we also did was put a surround. So these sit on about 12-inch deep stone with a concrete surround, so we get no weeds, and I think it looks really quite good. The white stone as well helps with the bifacial panels, the sets at the back there, because it boosts the production a bit more. So really good.
Well, let's go back to before you had solar. What was your main decision? When was the moment you're like, I want to have a proper solar system?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that was about 2 years ago when we started the investigation. First thing I did actually was saw some of your videos on YouTube. I was always kind of interested in the idea to be energy self-sufficient as far as possible. But with the hot weather here and a lot of air cons, we're using so much electricity. And let's say hot season, the bill can be 15, 18, even over 20,000 a couple of months. So solar for me was driven by one, wanting to save money on the electricity bills, but also the grid supply here is really not very reliable. Especially in rainy season, we get a lot of power cuts. So what I wanted to have here was cost saving, but also to have reliable power for the house. So battery system was a must, and I put priority on having a very good UPS setup. So all of the main house now is on UPS, all of the sockets, most of the aircon, and all the lights work super well. We had quite a big grid outage last week because there was a storm, but you wouldn't know it in the main house. Everything continued perfectly normal, not even a flicker on the TV because the battery discharge was on, worked perfectly.
And let's say we compare the cost now for the bill, the monthly bill before you had solar, 18, 20,000, sometimes more, and now you're looking at
80%, 90% reduction. Just depends how much load we're using. And I would say in this time of year where we're not maxing out the solar, the electricity bill last month was just a couple of $1,000. So really good saving.
And let's talk about the process a little bit from the first time I talked to you to once we had a clear idea what we wanted to do.
Yeah. So, as I knew nothing about solar when we first started, I had a lot of questions, and I know that you took a lot of time with me to explain and properly define a system appropriate for my needs. System sizing, I didn't really have an idea, and how to make it work for the UPS. So many questions. And the other thing, we had, I should say, not great electrics on the house. So one of the things we had to do near the beginning was fix quite a lot of shared neutrals, because the UPS needs a good clean electrical system, and so we had quite a bit of rewiring, and also we did some recabling so that we had sufficient power cables coming from the solar room to the different parts of the house and the separate buildings, so we could set up everything properly. We had quite a lot of discussion about where to site the panels, and we ended up with this configuration, right, ground level in the garden, and southwest and south facing, which works really well. So in fact, for most of the day, the panels are getting full sun, and there's really not much shading at all where we put them, so it works super well. What I wanted, and it's exactly as you see, is the all black panels. Every detail, even down to the black clips on the panels. I think it looks super slick. I think that, yes, it's quite a big investment, but it's a long-term investment, and I think having reliable equipment, good quality equipment, super important. And I've had really very few issues. Issues have probably been more my understanding of how to use the system, but reliability and quality of equipment, safety of the batteries, important feature for me. Excellent, absolutely excellent, and that's also super important, because when you first install a system, you need to have a bit of, I would say, support, teaching, assistance on how to use it properly, how to set it up properly, how to program the discharge, how to use the monitoring system, and yeah, the tiny teething problems, which, because we had shared neutrals and things in the house, there were a few things that you helped me with, pre-installation and after sales, and that, I think, having very good customer support, no delay, right? And if I can mention, we had one faulty smart meter, right? There was one that had a problem, and the support there was amazing, right? You had a guy drive up during the night, and it was repaired by 10 o'clock the next morning. Totally incredible. I wanted to have a separate equipment room outside of the main house. So this one is actually an annex to the car park. Air conditioned, as you say. Originally we started with the T10 system, so there's two T10 inverters which are working in parallel, and four batteries on that system, which is 30 kilowatt hours, something like that, I think, just a bit over 30 kilowatt hours. And then I decided to expand the UPS capability for the main house. I wanted to have more of the air conditioners on UPS, and I wanted to have all of the sockets in the main house on UPS, and there's about 130 outlets, I think, altogether. But the load is quite low, obviously, because you're not using many sockets at one time. But to have batteries that would last us all night in the cooler weather and most of the night in the hot season, quite important, because power outages and also for the money saving. So we've ended up with 7 batteries now, 3 inverters, so it's a total of 40 kilowatts of inverter power, and it's big UPS, right? We can power most things, and there are some very big air cons that are running pretty much 24/7 on this system. So it works really quite well for me. Battery type for me is also important. These are LFP batteries, which are safest chemistry, I think, for thermal runaway. But having a separate room from the main house, it's what I like to have. We had to put some big cables in from the solar room to the breaker panels in the house and some of the other buildings. But once it was done, we've been able to reuse that as we've expanded the system, and it works really quite nicely. Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is that quality of the installation is really excellent. And if you just look around the room, it's super tidy. All the cabling, all the conduits, even the special cable trays we put upstairs to carry the big cables. Very happy with it. I like this room. This is one of my favourite rooms in the house. Has a kind of industrial feel for me. Yeah, top quality installation. Really nice equipment.
With Gordon outside of Udon, Thani. He has a Smile 5 system here. And how long have you had this system, Gordon?
I guess it's close to about 3 years now since we put it in.
How was the situation before you decided to add solar? Why did you add, and what was your thinking at that time?
We expanded our buildings on the property, and I started to see bills of 6,000 to 8,000 to 9,000 baht a month from the 2,500 that we were used to. And I figured it was about time to supplement that, because I would have a good return on my investment of, say, I'm comfortable with 10 years, but let's say if we use a lot, it might be even less.
So this is a 5 kilowatt inverter with a 10 kilowatt hour battery. And so how much has your how much has your bill been reduced?
Quite amazing. Our highest bill when we had guests, so we were using multiple air cons all day and all night, was about 5,000. Our best month was 300 baht, but we were away a couple of weeks during that. But we still had the AC on low for moisture in the house. So I would say it's working pretty good.
So when you had the installation done, what was your overall experience with the installation?
Well, first of all, I'm a research nut, so I saw something on the internet, and it caused me to look deeper into solar and what was available to us. And I looked at local people, I looked at Bangkok people, and then I just looked at people in the comments, and I ended up calling a company that had good results and comments about the installation, the service, and the communication, which is very important to me.
So after the installation, obviously everything was working, but after sale is also important, isn't it? Even if you have a fully functioning system?
It's more important. I just saw something the other day about a restaurant. Is your first meal, you leave there happy, your chances of coming back are 40%. If you have a second meal and you leave there happy, your chances of coming back for the third meal are 75%. So I think that's very important. And in my business, I was always personally involved with customer service and backup. In Thailand, it's very important also, but especially because of language issues. Nobody wants to guess what somebody's trying to explain to them.
Yeah.
So I've been very happy so far, and including being able to text the owner of the company in the middle of the night to say, hey, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And getting a thumbs up, so I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah. And now we are actually opening a branch in Udon, Thani, but I don't think the service for you will be any different, because even if you have been far away from our main office, the service has not been impacted by that. At least that's our goal, you know?
Well, it seems to me that the communication between the installing company and service company and the manufacturer is all internet based. So upgrades, firmware updates, everything is just, it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
As long as you've got somebody to communicate with when you have a question to ask.
100%. That very few problems that we can't solve remotely, and so there's a train of troubleshooting that happens before, and then 90% of the problems disappear. The lacking 10%, we have to go on site, but then we do that. And what would you say to those that say that, of course, this kind of system, you can find cheaper systems? What would you say to those that says that you have paid too much, that you should have gone with something cheaper?
Always cheaper, but there's not always works.
Yeah.
So for me, to have a small premium, and from what I've looked at for quality installations, there's not even really much of a premium with what I chose, is if it works all the time and it doesn't become a headache or a chase this or a chase that for service or replacement, then I think I made the right choice. Especially if within the given warranty and projected utilization lifetime of the equipment, if it meets or exceeds that, then I've spent money in a proper way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.